Okay, so chapter 11 is about sexual reproduction, and part of sexual reproduction is a type of cell division called meiosis. You can also pronounce it meiosis, but I say meiosis. So I put on this slide, I added a few things that you need to add. These are like the main goals of this chapter. There's some details, but the main goals, if I can do this as a teacher, if I can achieve these two goals, then I will have succeeded. So these are two very big ideas in biology. And so you really, in terms of cell biology, want to wrap your brain around these. And it's going to take some maybe time to do that. But in the last chapter, number 1, we went over cell cycle, which includes mitosis. That's a type of cell division that makes clones. It makes cells that are identical. So if you start with one cell that has certain genetic characteristics, you end the cell cycle with 2 cells with those same characteristics, and they're clones of each other. They're genetically identical. But in this chapter, we're going to be looking at a different cell division in terms of what the purpose is of it. So meiosis does not make clones, and it is not the same as mitosis, even though the name of it is unfortunately kind of similar. The purpose of meiosis is to serve as the cell division, which is the first step of a bigger process called sexual reproduction. So meiosis is important, but not the entirety of sexual reproduction. So sexual reproduction is this bigger topic, and then it has 2 parts. The first part is a cell division called meiosis, and the second part is a process called fertilization. So in chapter 11, we're going to be focusing quite a bit on the meiosis cell division part of sexual reproduction, but I will be also mentioning what fertilization is. And so you want to keep meiosis sort of in its own category, separate from mitosis, which is cell cycle. That's why these are 2 different chapters. So you have fundamentally two types of cell division in the world. You have the cell cycle / mitosis type, which makes clones. In bacteria, we called it binary fission. And there's slight variants of it, but it always makes these clones, genetically identical product cells. But what I'm going to be introducing here is another type of cell division, the other type, but it has a different set of processes and it has a different purpose. So the purpose of meiosis is to be part of sexual reproduction. So that's the first goal of this chapter for me as a teacher and for you as a learner. Number 2, in chapter 10, we looked at chromosomes having 2 different forms. I use the word form, 2 different forms. A chromosome can be in the monad form, for example, in a G1 of the cell cycle. But then during S phase, the chromosomes replicate. And at that point, they're composed of 2 sister chromatids. And we call the whole chromosome at that point thereafter the dyad form. A monad chromosome counts as 1 chromosome. A dyad in its entirety counts as 1 chromosome. So we went over that in chapter 10, and that's still true. But now we're going to juxtapose the concept of chromosome form to another concept, which it's actually separate from, which is called cell ploidy. Cell ploidy is, we use terms like haploid and diploid. And so my goal as a teacher is to have you see how those 2 things, chromosome form and cell ploidy, are 2 different considerations, 2 different aspects of a cell and of chromosomes. So because students often confuse them. So students often confuse the cell cycle type of cell division with the meiosis type. And students often confuse the concept of chromosome form with the concept of cell ploidy. So if I can get those concepts straight for you, then I have done a good job, I think. All right, so that's a lot of preface for what we're about to talk about. So we want to keep that in the forefront of our mind. Okay, so in chapter 11, we're really looking at this big topic of sexual reproduction. Most plants and animals reproduce sexually. Some plants and animals also reproduce asexually, but that would go more into that chapter 10 concept. So we're talking about sexual reproduction. So this is a pretty common process in the biosphere. And really what sexual reproduction is, it has to involve two different cells. We typically say egg and sperm, which are going to come from different individuals. Although there are cases where both egg and sperm can come from the same individual, that's also possible. But there have to be two cells that are generated separately, and then they come together. They merge together. So what you get from sexual reproduction, every generation is genetically different in terms of which versions of genes are combined together into each new individual. So you get some genetic diversity, and that becomes the raw material of evolution. So we're not going to delve into evolution in this chapter, but other than the fact that sexual reproduction creates or allows the production of the genetic diversity, which makes evolution possible. Okay, so I boldfaced this part at the bottom. Sexual reproduction includes two steps, and I put them in chronological order. Meiosis first, that's this special cell division that we haven't talked about. It's not the same as mitosis. And then fertilization. So meiosis is the cell division that makes these haploid cells. I haven't defined what haploid is yet, but it makes these cells that we call eggs and sperm. So meiosis is the cell division that makes what we call gametes, makes eggs and sperm, it makes haploid cells. All those statements are true. So meiosis is the type of cell division that makes gametes. And then the second step of sexual reproduction is fertilization. Two gametes fuse together to make what we call a zygote. So meiosis is a cell division that makes gametes. Fertilization is two cells fusing together to make a zygote, which is a new individual. And so meiosis is a cell division, fertilization is two cells fusing. So that's a good kind of structure for you to think about sexual reproduction. First, the cell division makes gametes, fertilization makes a zygote. Okay, but I have to tackle this concept. I mentioned the word haploid, and I have to tackle this first because I think if I tackle this and we can get this straight, it's going to help you quite a bit with the way the language is used in genetics. I mean, really, we're entering the realm of genetics, things that are passed from parent to child, generation to generation on the chromosomes. And so this becomes part of this language that you want to be able to master, if only for this course, but maybe if you're going on and you're interested in genetics. So this is the language that we use, and so it's a little tricky, but if we can master it, it's going to be very helpful for you going forward. I think you'll find in some classes as you move forward, you'll see students are still struggling to understand this. Okay, now I want you to pay attention to the language I'm using. I am using it in a particular way, and I wrote here, the number of sets of chromosomes contained in the nucleus of a cell is called the cell's ploidy. For example, a cell that contains one set of chromosomes is called a monoploid cell. Mono means one, and ploid means sets. A cell that contains two sets of chromosomes is called a diploid cell. A cell that contains 3 sets of chromosomes is called a triploid cell, and so on and so forth. You can even have cells that are tetraploid, 4 sets, pentaploid, 5 sets, hexaploid, 6 sets, and so on. So the number of sets that a cell contains, it will be described by these words that include a prefix and then the word ploidy or ploid for sets. So let us look. I added a slide. You should probably get maybe a blank sheet of paper here. And I'm going to make a drawing, a couple of drawings. You could make multiple drawings as I go along. But there's going to be a lot of talk about pairs of chromosomes or sets of chromosomes, and those are very different things. So let me start with, on the previous slide, I said a cell that has 1 set of chromosomes is called monoploid. In humans, I'm going to draw really a nucleus. In humans, we have 23 chromosomes in each 1 set. And I'm not going to draw 23 chromosomes. So we're going to simplify this. I'm going to draw 3 chromosomes. And I'm going to draw them in the monad form. So here's one monad chromosome. There's the centromere. We're going to call that the long chromosome. I'm going to draw a medium chromosome in the monad form and a small chromosome in the monad form. Sorry about the bad drawings. But this is supposed to represent 3 chromosomes, 1 long here, 1 medium here, and 1 small here. 3 different chromosomes. Chromosomes are identified based on their length, based on exactly where the centromere is positioned relative to their length, and based on the pattern of stripes that will appear when you put certain kinds of stains on them. So 2 chromosomes that are the same type will have the same length, the centromere will be in the same place, and the striping pattern would be the same. So these are 3 different chromosomes, 3 different lengths, and 3 different centromere placements, and 3 different, I didn't draw the striping patterns, but they would be different. Okay, so this is 3 monad chromosomes, and let's say for this species, that is what is in 1 set. So instead of 23 in 1 set for humans, 3 in this example. So this cell would have 1 set of chromosomes. So we would say that this cell is monoploid. The cell is monoploid. So when we use these terms, we have to be using it to describe the cell. The cell is monoploid. The chromosomes themselves are in the monad form. So the chromosomes are monad form, and the cell is monoploid. Monoploid means contains 1 set, and if 3 different chromosomes makes up a set, then that's monoploid. But the chromosomes are in the monad form. So there's 3 chromosomes, and that makes up 1 set. So the cell contains 1 set, 1 set. Now, if the cell replicates its chromosomes, then each of these chromosomes would be replicated. So I'll put another sister chromatid here. This is hard to draw with a mouse, but you'll forgive me. Now we have not 3 monad form chromosomes, we have 3 chromosomes, but they're in the dyad form. But the number of sets hasn't changed because this counts as 1 long chromosome. Even in the dyad form, it only counts as 1. This counts as 1 medium, and this counts as 1 small. So we have 3 dyad form chromosomes, but the cell is still said to be monoploid, 1 of each. So in G1, a cell would always have monad chromosomes. In G2, a cell would always have dyad chromosomes. That's just a function of which phase the cell is in, but the cell hasn't changed its ploidy in those situations. The cell is still monoploid. All right, now let me make this cell change to a different cell that's diploid. I need my eraser. Let's see, I'm going to erase my circles. Okay, I'm going to leave the chromosomes in the dyad form All right, so the form of the chromosome isn't important in terms of if I'm going to try to make a cell that is diploid, what I would need is a cell that contains another long chromosome, another medium chromosome, pretend like this is medium, and another small chromosome. Now this cell is diploid because it has two sets. This cell contains two sets. One set is like the one I drew before. So let me circle. I'm going to circle in a different color. Anything that anything that makes up one set. So it would be like this would be one set, and this would be the other set. So any combination of large, medium, and small is a set. So this cell has two sets of chromosomes, one large, one medium, one small. And in this particular drawing, the chromosomes are in the dyad form, and there are 6 dyad chromosomes in this cell. But the chromosomes are in the dyad form, and the cell is diploid. So in blue, I have circled the sets. One set here, a large, a medium, and a small makes up a set. Another large, medium, and small makes up a set. So what is a pair? Well, the word pair is used all over the place. I will tend to only use the word pair when I'm talking about a homologous pair. And a homologous pair, I'll get a different color. Let's do green. This is a homologous pair. 2 chromosomes of the same type, the same length, the same centromere placement, and the same striping pattern. And they also contain the same genes in the same order. These 2 medium chromosomes make up a homologous pair, and these 2 smalls make up a homologous pair. So in green, I've circled that I have 3 homologous pairs. Homologous pairs. I have 6 dyad chromosomes total in this cell, and the cell contains 2 sets of chromosomes. So a set being, now I'll do my blue again. This is a set, and this could be a set. So any one large, any one medium, any one small collectively is a set. The other large, medium, and small collectively is a set. So pairs is 2 of the same type. A set consists of 1 of each different type collectively. Right. So hopefully that makes sense. And then whether the chromosomes are in the monad form or the dyad form, that just depends on what is happening in that cell at that particular time. Is the cell in a G1 before replication, or is it in a G2 after replication? Then that's a different issue. All right. So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so meiosis, the whole thing, is a cell division that makes products that are monoploid. So gametes are cells that are the products of meiosis, this particular cell division, and the gametes are monoploid. They have 1 set of chromosomes. It also is true that gametes always have monad chromosomes, monad form chromosomes. And so when you look at this picture here, they try to draw in the sperm the monad form chromosomes, although they would be the same size as what's in the egg. So that's a little misleading in this drawing. But there's 3 chromosomes in the sperm. Let's say 1 medium, 1 large, 1 medium, 1 small. There's 3 chromosomes in the egg, 1 large, 1 medium, 1 small. And fertilization is just the fusion of these 2 cells. The cell membranes fuse together, and then the nuclear membranes fuse together. And then the new nucleus contains all of the chromosomes that were originally in the sperm nucleus, and all of the chromosomes that were originally in the egg nucleus are now coexisting in one cell. So this cell is diploid because it has 2 large, 2 medium, and 2 short, let's say. And it also is true that these chromosomes right now are in the monad form. 6 chromosomes, a diploid cell, 2 sets, and then 3 homologous pairs, but they're all in the monad form. So that's just a function of what happens in this situation. Okay, so I'm going to take a break, and then you can go on to the next lecture segment when you're ready.